survival drama. Part dystopia's slumber party, The Wilds follows a group of teen girls from different backgrounds who must fight for survival after a plane crash strands them on a desert island. The castaways both clash and bond as they learn more about each other, the secrets they keep, and the traumas they've all endured. There's just one twist to this thrilling drama. These girls did not end up on this island by accident. Let's check out the trailer of this new series.
I don't mean to say that what happened wasn't traumatic. To end up where we did, in the middle of nowhere, completely cut off from the lives we left behind. That brings us to the real question, doesn't it? What was so great about the lives we left behind?
It feels like everywhere I go, somebody's asking me to meet some kind of expectation.
I feel broken.
We are stuck here.
It's the 21st century, okay? They will find us.
My life is out there a million miles away.
There was trauma. But being a teenage girl, that was the real living hell.
Death has been hanging over our heads.
And yet the only thing I seem to care about is love.
Isn't that what we're all afraid of? That we won't be loved.
Are we in the actual Bermuda Triangle?
Everything about the island feels off. What kind of person sees an island full of lost girls and doesn't send help?
Your daughter is stepping back from a very dark precipice.
Sometimes I feel guilty that we lied to her.
You did that to save her.
I feel broken.
That was pretty awesome, right? So, you're invited to meet all these new characters on an exclusively premiere on Amazon Prime Video in over 200 territories worldwide on December 11th, 2020. The first episode will be available for free on the service. All you have to do is sign up for a free trial. In addition to having the first episode on Prime Video for free, we will have it available on all Prime Video socials across YouTube, IGTV, Twitter, and Facebook from December 11th until December 25th. You're also invited to The Wild's virtual slumber party premiere. Make sure to visit thewildslumberparty.com for more info. And we're going to talk about your next favorite show at Prime Video with some people that are involved on it. Sarah Stretcher, Amy V. Harris, Rachel Griffiths, Sarah Pigeon, and Rain Edwards. Hello, ladies. Oh my God.
Hello.
Here we are.
Hello.
Digitally connected in 2020. So let's start this panel with, going a little bit different. We're talking about a show that takes place on a desert island. So I'm afraid we cannot avoid the classical question. What would you bring to a desert island if you could choose only one item, but, okay, with a twist? And the twist is going to be, I have a few subjects with numbers from 1 to 9, and you have to pick a number so I can tell you what kind of object or thing you're going to choose. So let's start with Sarah Stretcher. Pick a number from 1 to 9. 7. So you've got a video game. Are you into video games at all?
I'm into some OG, like Nintendo 64 games.
Good
so
pick.
I rolled deep in the Mario Kart world. I still see it in my dreams.
Oh my
every
God,
once in a while.
Mario Kart is my favorite. Oh my God, yeah.
Yoshi.
That's a good one. Good one. Okay, Amy, pick a number.
3.
Number 3, you've got a tool. What kind of tool would you take to an island?
like a Swiss Army knife so that it could do a bunch of different things.
That's
Hopefully there'd be wine there, so it could
lady.
also open wine.
That's a really good idea. Rachel, please choose a number from 1 to 9.
Number 1.
A book. What kind of book would you take to an island?
Survivalist for Dummies.
Ha, good one. Sarah Pigeon, pick a number.
Let's do 9.
Okay, so 9 is a toy from your childhood.
Probably the Tinker toys, so I could build a little house.
I love how you girls are all strategic.
Little logs.
That's awesome. Rain Edwards, please. 8. Sports gear.
Yeah. Ooh, yes.
That's a hard one.
I guess
I would never do any
jump
kind
rope,
of sports, you know.
A tree, I don't know.
Okay, that was a nice one. You guys are all strategic. I mean, you taught a lot about it, I guess. So I have a question for Sarah. Can you tell us a little bit of how you came up with the idea for this show? And also, what is the inspiration behind it, and why was it important for you to give each girl the opportunity to speak her own point of view and perspective?
It began with a breakup, actually. Maybe 6 years ago, I unfortunately, woefully sort of got my heart trampled on by a gentleman who shall remain nameless. And anyway, it made me feel like a teenager again. It just utterly laid me low. It made gave me ups and downs. The swings were incredible. The intensity of the pain was incredible. I listened to sad songs. I called my mother. Anyway, it just really reminded me of how close to the surface our teenage self always is. It's just always right there with us. And so I wanted to explore that, and I wanted to celebrate the intensity of emotion of that time. So it was sort of a natural marriage for me to pair the adolescent years with a deserted island, because they are both these extreme, intense periods of time, circumstances. And so I thought it would be nice to draw a parallel between the two experiences. The idea of that marriage came to me just sort of naturally. So that was my main inspiration, and of course I drew from deserted island stories that have preceded us, like Lost and Lord of the Flies is a big influence. Castaway, and so I infused them into this project.
I love the mixture. Now a question for Sarah Pigeon and Rain Edwards. The show has a lot of stressful scenes, and the girls are always together in most of them. What was it like hanging out with the cast behind the scenes, shooting on those amazing and really crazy landscapes every day?
Yeah, I think people have a lot of ideas of what getting 8 girls together might be like. It really was such a wonderful bonding experience, and to be surrounded by so many amazing, strong, talented women, especially in portraying characters who are surviving this island. And I think the 8 of us were not as obviously traumatic as the girls in the show are. But it really was a bonding experience to be on this beach every single day and be in these beautiful locations and telling these unique stories of all these different women. I feel very, very close to them, and I'm really excited by what we made.
I love how diverse they are and how diverse are the struggles also. Now let's talk a little bit about Gretchen, who is this really interesting character, Rachel. So she's portrayed as a feminist and someone who wants to prove that women can be greater together, but of course her ways of doing so are really questionable. Do you think Gretchen is sending an important message about women's empowerment and how this topic should not be led by only one point of view?
Wow, that's a lot to unpick. Look, I think history is littered with revolutionary thinkers that left a lot of bloodshed and collateral. Sometimes those higher causes, like the American Civil War, as painful as it was, had a just cause for the blood that was shed. And then you have the Pol Pots and the Stalins who killed millions of people with their conviction that they had a better path for the world. So where does Gretchen sit on this moral equivocation of, do you have to break eggs to make an omelet? But she is passionate as she looks at the world in, 2019, 2020, that male leadership is not helping our planet and our countries move in the right direction. And she looks to models of female leadership and female cooperation and collaboration as something that needs to be proven, once and for all, that women make better leaders than men in terms of how they work together to solve the biggest problems that we face. But it'll be up to every viewer to come up with their own conclusion about whether or not the ends justifies the means.
Well, I really like the character Leah, and I'd like to ask Sarah. So Leah was in this really intense relationship that ended abruptly, and she can't stop obsessively thinking about it, and that's actually why she was sent to the retreat. So do you think she can move past the situation, and what advice would you give her to do so?
I think if I had any advice to Leah, it would be to feel it all. I think so often, especially for Leah, this was the first time that she felt these emotions at such magnitude. And I think so often as an adolescent, since you're experiencing things for the first time, you don't really know what to do with yourself and how to comfort yourself and how to deal with it. And I think Leah becomes more familiar with the extremes of her personality, the extremes of her emotions. And I think throughout the season, you see her find strength in that depth of feeling that she has and gets to know it better.
I'm gonna let you behind the curtain a little bit. If a girl really likes someone, she won't put their name in her phone. Your crush is like sacred. You can't just file him in your contacts between your cousin and your chem lab partner. That would make him common. So you learn his number, every contour of every digit. You carve those little hieroglyphs on your heart. So you basically sleepwalk through the rest of your life, waiting for dispatches from that magic number. And then there's the pivotal text. It will probably come around midnight, and it will change everything.
Yeah, that's Leah, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the struggles of the characters. And I find it really interesting that they have so many characters and so many struggles that are really different, but they're also really truthful to what we live as girls. So do you guys identify with your character struggles or any other character struggles? And did you ever go through any of these topics mentioned in the girls' stories?
Definitely. I mean, I can still feel, when I think about it, getting my heart broken for the first time and realizing that your parents are people too for the first time, and best friend relationship. I mean, I think this story uncovers so many universal truths that continue to resonate no matter if you're a teenager or in your 20s or 30s. I mean, but I think in particular with Leah, the way her mind sort of juggles multiple things at once is something that I find myself, especially in this time during quarantine. It's a lot of time with your own thoughts, similar to Leah being on the island. And yeah, it's always just sort of buzzing and becoming more and more familiar with the things your heart says and your mind says, and that intense intuition that she has.
Rachel seems to be a character that fights to maintain appearances. So, Ree, what do you think is so real in a woman's life?
Fighting to maintain appearances. I think that in terms of putting a lot of pressure on myself, I put tons of pressure on myself to succeed. If I failed, I would beat myself up, and I had never looked at failure before as like a true lesson. Sometimes when it was small failures, I was like, oh yeah, I can learn. But if it was something big, I'd really beat myself up about it. So I think the lesson that we're learning through Rachel and through her progression in the series is that it's okay to just breathe. You don't have to put so much pressure on yourself. You don't have to control everything. Let life happen.
So now let's watch a little clip about Rachel in the wilds.
Hustle and hard work. That's how you make your dreams come true. We grow up hearing that, don't we? That you don't have to be gifted or some kind of natural. If you just put in the time, the effort, and the sweat, anything is possible. I believed that because I had to. Only to find out it was a stone cold lie.
I really love that character. Okay, now I have a question for Sarah Stretcher and Amy B. Harris. Do you girls believe that people will identify with this character, especially with their thirst for life and will to survive against all odds?
I think all of these characters are hopefully ones that people will connect to and feel like they know. I sort of hope if I ever ended up on a deserted island that a Rachel would be in my life, because her desire and, drive and push to just keep going against all the odds. Yes, she obviously has a lot of issues that she's struggling with, and I think we all struggle with our sense of appearance and wanting to be perfect and trying to fit into certain ideas of what we're supposed to be as women. But her fierce drive and determination, I think, are things that are really of value. She just has to figure out how to sort of measure those two things and not let one take over.
Yeah, I entirely agree. And I do think and hope that audiences will relate to these young women and their very, very human struggles, traumas. And I think, what the backstories reveal is that what they have gone through in their pasts provide them with all of these resources, whether it was, pain or trauma or a perceived weakness. When they get on that island, some of those experiences that they've gone through actually give them these superpowers, that these resources that they didn't even know they had, but they're there and they help them remain resilient. And that's what's really exciting to watch. And I think people will perhaps, hopefully, be galvanized by that and will feel like I too have resources that if I were to be put in an extreme situation, I would be able to call upon them and discover them. So.
Now I want you girls to imagine that you are in a similar situation on the show. How do you think you would survive on a desert island? Would you?
I think I'd be 50-50. I think I'm resourceful, but I mean, if there's a spider out there that I don't know is like, I don't know.
I'd like to think that I would survive. I think I would. I think I'm tall, and I think that can help me get some fruit off of trees, climb to shelter in trees. I guess my height is really the only thing I have going for me, but I think that it's a really valuable tool and would allow me to survive.
Between you know each other really well by this point, I guess. So do you think each of you would be like the first to die and not make it?
I don't think I'd be the first to die.
I don't think you would either, Rain, at all.
Thanks,
I actually think I don't. I was always sort of a person on Sex and the City. People used to say if there was some sort of massive emergency in the city, you should follow me. And I think in a city emergency, I would make it all the way. But I think on an island, I might be the first to go.
Rachel, how about you? Do you think you would survive?
It's probably me.
Yes, I have no doubt I would survive. One, because I'm the oldest here, so I'm wiser and know more. But also, I'm ADHD, so I'm perfectly built for a survivalist. I can see predators everywhere. I'm an excellent body surfer and underwater swimmer, and I can spear fish. And I grew up just loving watching Robinson Crusoe, the television show. And I also am a huge Bear Grylls fan. So I think between Bear Grylls and Robinson Crusoe and my very strong swimming and fishing ability, and I love sashimi, so I think making a fire would be the most challenging thing for me.
Oh, yeah. That is harder than people think, This is really, really hard. I would pick you to save me from any kind of serpent or crazy animal from the island, for sure.
I'd be good on that, yeah.
And this is a very 2020 kind of series, right? It talks about girls who are the past millennial phase, like the X, Y, Z, whatever. But I keep thinking, in this dystopian scenario, do you think it could be placed in another era with teens from different traditions and socializations?
I do. I mean, I think what Sarah built, which was so interesting, was what happens when you also take these young women away from social media. But I think the challenges of being a teenager for the last 80 to 100 years are ones that I think the metaphor of the story, I think, really would play in many different eras. Certainly, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, 80s. I could see it as a tale in many different time frames.
I agree. I think that this desert island trope mechanism is so tried and true, and we keep going back to it because it does feel so applicable over different eras. Yeah, I would argue that perhaps, like the Elizabethan or medieval times, those are so extreme already. Everybody sort of having to make do, no electricity. You wouldn't have that fun contrast of going from a utterly civilized place to a uncivilized place. But otherwise, I think it's a very universally applicable trope time-wise.
Okay. Ladies, it's been a pleasure to have you digitally here. It was a great talk, and I cannot wait to marathon the series.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's been lovely seeing you, ladies.
Yay.
Thank you for supporting our show. Yay.
Thank you so much.